They said humans were too fragile to matter. She only laughed. The vast lecture hall of the Interstellar Academy was a cathedral of glass and light, packed with hundreds of cadets drawn from over 30 worlds. They wore polished uniforms, plated hides, or organic shells, each design reflecting their species. And in the center stood a single human girl, plain gray tunic, short hair tied back with a posture far too casual for the setting. Her name was Mara Kellen, the lone human admitted to this year's intake. From the moment she entered the academy gates, her presence had been a joke. The academy celebrated power genetics, engineered for war and lifespans that stretched for centuries. Humanity was a latecomer stumbling into faster than light travel barely a decade ago. Here she was standing before alien cadets who muttered in growls, clicks, and psychic whispers about the absurdity of a soft-skinned creature believing she could endure. Present your thesis. Professor Rathal, a towering insectoid with faceted eyes shimmering in the artificial glow. His mandibles clacked as he pointed to the speaking podium. Mara walked forward calmly, boots ringing against the polished floor. She set her notes down. The whispers swelled into open derision. A cadet from the Vorex cluster barked, "Why bother? Humans can't even survive their own climate shifts." Another, a crystalline figure scattering the light in fractured rainbows, pulsed with mocking laughter. This one's lungs collapsed under high gravity. Could she teach us? Their laughter spread, a chorus of contempt echoing through the hall. Mara didn't flinch. Instead she leaned closer to the microphone, a faint smile touching her lips. She spoke 5 words. "What do you fear most?" The chamber fell quiet, not instantly, but gradually, like a tide retreating. Cadets shifted uneasily. The telepath in the back frowned, unable to pierce her mind. Professor Rattle tilted his head, curious but silent. Mara's voice was steady, carrying farther than it should. "All of you take pride in your strength, your heritage, your species' brilliance. You laugh because I am human from a world you call fragile. But fragility is not what defines us. What defines us is that we face the void, the chaos, the nightmares you dread, and we walk forward anyway." Above, the lights flickered. First it seemed a glitch. Then one by one the panels dimmed until only a faint blue glow remained. Unease rippled through the audience. Mara stood motionless, her voice echoing from every corner. "You fear silence. You fear death. Fear the end of your stories. Humans have faced those from the beginning. We sat beneath endless night with predators, stalking our fires, storms tearing down our shelters, plagues we could not. And what did we do? We sang. We told stories. We kept moving. We found light where none existed." The room was nearly dark now, lit only by alien eyes, glowing skin, and crystalline bodies faintly shimmering. Mara's silhouette was a shadow. Cadets shifted, some clicking nervously, others tightening their breathing masks. "You think my kind laughable? Too weak to fight, too short-lived to matter. History shows again and again we rise where others fall. When air thins, we build machines to breathe. When land is we plant again. When enemies arrive, with claws and fire we adapt, strike, and endure." Her hand hovered above the podium. Controls. Pressed a key. The amphitheater walls blazed with holograms, not flawless war footage but raw records. Men and women in battered suits patching ships mid-flight under enemy fire. Soldiers dragging comrades through mud while returning fire. Engineers welding in the void as meteors ripped hulls apart. Chaotic, imperfect, scenes, but every frame radiated one truth: refusal to surrender. "This is humanity," Mara said softly. "Not the strongest, the fastest, or the longest lived. But we are the ones who do not stop. And that, cadets, is what you should fear." Silence crushed the hall. Even Rathel's mandibles stilled. For the first time, Mara held every eye, claw, and sensor. Then the emergency lights flared, flooding the chamber with harsh white. Cadets blinked, hissed, shifted. Looked rattled, others furious. None laughed. Mara calmly closed her notes and stepped. "That concludes my introduction." The murmur that followed was no longer mocking but uncertain. Professor Rathall clicked his mandibles, his voice booming. Again, though now colored with something rare for his species: respect. "Cadet Kellen, remain after class." Mara gave a short nod, hiding a faint smile as she left the stage, knowing the Academy would never view humans the same way again. The following day, whispers tracked her through the corridors. Cadets who once mocked now spoke in hushes, some glaring with narrowed eyes, others turning away. She had unsettled them, not by muscle or lifespan but by something they had never trained to resist: conviction. In tactical simulations, the vast chamber buzzed with energy, walls alive with holographic fleets. Today's lesson: full-scale battle scenario against the Terran Dominion, ruthless, endless, known for swarming their foes with merciless numbers. Alien cadets relished these trials, eager to prove supremacy. Professor Yalin, a long-limbed Avan scholar crowned with metallic feathers, assigned each squad a sector to defend. Mara was grouped with 3 others: Drogar, a hulking Vorax cadet, Helith, a crystalline being, and Kor, a scaled reptilian. None of them wanted her. Drogar sneered openly, his gravelly voice sharp. "Stay out of the way, human. This is real strategy, not one of your quaint Earth tales." Mara said nothing. She studied the holographic projection before them. A star system glowed with 3 planets, 2 asteroid belts, and an enemy fleet marked crimson. Their task: defend the central planet for 30 simulated minutes. The others dove into elaborate debates, quoting fleet strengths, ratios, and doctrines centuries old. Mara traced the map in silence. Their arrangement was neat: cruisers near the planet, interceptors guarding the flanks. Clean, balanced, textbook perfect. And destined to fail. "You're leaving the asteroid belt unguarded," Mara said at last. Helith pulsed with irritation. "The Tarkon cannot move their heavy craft through such terrain. Guarding it is mathematically wasteful." Mara leaned closer, pointing. "It's wasteful only if you think like them. Humans survive by turning weakness into ambush. If I were Tarkon, I'd slip small ships through here, sow chaos, lure your interceptors away, then hammer the core with the main fleet." Kor hissed, tail lashing. Drogar barked laughter. "Absurd. The Tarkon fight with precision, not chaos." Mara shrugged. "Defend by the book if you like. Just don't expect me to watch when it crumbles." Professor Yalin signaled the start. Enemy icons surged forward. Drogar's neat formation held at first. Interceptors cut down the opening wave. Cruisers stood firm. Cadets murmured approval. Then it happened. A swarm of small enemy ships burst from the asteroid belt, slipping through unnoticed gaps. They shredded supply lines, jammed comms, spread panic. Drogar cursed, scrambling to redirect. The formation unraveled. Crimson flooded the map. Within minutes, the planet was lost. The lights brightened. Groans, hisses, and uneasy laughter filled the hall. Yalin's feathers drooped. A textbook defense collapses when the enemy ignores your text. His piercing gaze turned to Mara. "Cadet Kellen, you foresaw this." She met his eyes evenly. "I only asked what I would do if desperate, outnumbered, and underestimated. That's been humanity's story for most of history." Silence pressed down. No one laughed. Yalin ruffled his feathers, intrigued. Next round, Cadet Kellen leads. Protests erupted. Drogar slammed the desk. This is an insult. She barely understands galactic warfare. But rules were rules. The next simulation began. Mara's hands moved quickly over the controls. She refused neat lines. Instead, she scattered cruisers irregularly, hiding them among asteroid shadows and debris. The central planet she left thinly guarded, a deliberate lure. Drogar growled. Helith flickered in disapproval. Kor spat softly. Mara ignored them, eyes fixed on the crimson swarm. When the Tarkon advanced, they lunged for the bait. Mara's trap snapped shut. Hidden ships exploded from cover, striking exposed flanks. Asteroids detonated with planted mines. Interceptors played decoys, drawing enemies into kill zones where waiting cruisers tore them apart. Red icons blinked out one by one. In 20 minutes, the simulated Tarkon fleet was broken, fleeing. The defenders not only held the planet, they crushed the invaders. The lights returned. Silence gripped the chamber. Mara stepped back. Sometimes you don't win by being stronger. You win by making your enemy choke on their confidence. Yalin's feathers shimmered bright. An excellent lesson, Cadet Kellen. Alien cadets stared, some shocked, others furious. None could deny what they'd seen. As the day ended, Mara crossed the courtyard alone. Stars glittered above, constellations unknown to human eyes. For the first time since she'd arrived, the air felt different. Not acceptance, not yet, but recognition. She was no longer just a fragile outsider. She was something far more dangerous, a human unwilling to fit their mold. Beyond the academy walls, real fleets stirred. Whispers of war crackled across channels. Mara wondered if any cadet realized how quickly their lessons would be tested. Weeks slipped by. The academy's mood shifted like an unseen tide. Mara still drew stares, but no longer mocking. They were measuring, wary, curious. Rumors spread of her strange victories, her unorthodox tactics that flipped doctrine upside down, her unsettling certainty. Even professors began teaching Kellen maneuvers, though the term carried both admiration and unease. Then theory shattered into reality. Sirens wailed through the academy, cutting across lectures and drills. Cadets scrambled, wings flaring, claws clattering, while sky domes blazed with urgent projections. A real Tarkon fleet had pierced neutral space. Worse, their course pointed straight for the system housing the academy. Panic spread. The Tarkon were merciless. They would not hesitate to erase a school if it meant crippling future enemies. The academy was no fortress, armed only with token defenses and a handful of patrol ships. Against a fleet, it was glass before fire. Professor Rathal gathered cadets in the central plaza, mandibles clacking in fury. Evacuate the younglings. Protect the archives at all cost. Senior cadets will aid in defense until reinforcements arrive. But reinforcements were days away. The Tarkon would be here within hours. Mara stood among her peers, listening to their frantic, scattered plans. Some argued for retreat, others for scattering defenses around the planet, still others for hiding behind shields and praying the Tarkon lost interest. All of it stank of fear dressed up as logic. Mara stepped forward, her voice slicing through the clamor. If we fight as you always fight, we're already dead. Dozens of alien eyes, compound, glowing and otherwise, fixed on her. Drogar snarled, "You dare!" But Professor Rathal silenced him with a raised claw. "Speak, human." Mara inhaled. "You've all studied the Tarkon. You know they win with numbers, with relentless precision. If we spread out, they'll cut us apart piece by piece. If we hide behind shields, they'll burn straight through. We can't match them ship for ship. But we can bleed them for time." She summoned a hollow map of the system. Her fingers traced asteroid belts, the twin moons orbiting the Academy's planet, the pull of nearby gas giants. They expect convention. They'll charge straight in. So we deny them that. We turn every orbit, every rock, every shadow into a weapon. We strike where they're weak, then vanish. We make them chase ghosts, confuse them, break their rhythm until reinforcements arrive. The cadets murmured, fear colliding with curiosity. Professor Yallen studied her for a long, heavy moment. Then he gave a single nod. You will command this defense, Cadet Kellen. Outrage rippled through the assembly, but the decision was final. Hours later, as the Tarkon fleet tore out of hyperspace, the defense began. Mara stood at the command nexus, a simple console ringed by nervous cadets. The first wave of Tarkon cruisers advanced, sleek crimson hulls aglow with weapon fire. Mara's voice carried across the comms. Not yet. Hold. The Tarkon expected resistance. They met silence instead. They pressed forward. Then hidden mines seated in the asteroid belt erupted, shredding their vanguard. Gasps rippled as crimson icons blinked out. Interceptors darted in from cover, firing, retreating, vanishing again. Frustration spread through enemy ranks. They tightened formation. That's when Mara struck again. Old freighters, placed in unstable orbits around the moons, exploded at her signal. Their fuel cell cores turned the moons into blazing beacons, scattering dust and debris, blinding Tarkon sensors. Confusion rippled across their formation. Now, Mara ordered. Cadet squadrons surged, not in lines but in jagged bursts, every strike unpredictable. Tarkon commanders tried to adapt, but each adjustment exposed new gaps. Hours became torment for the invaders. Cadets fought like predators, cutting, vanishing, returning from impossible angles. Tarkon ships burned. Their advantage crumbled. But the victory bled. Squadrons fell. Alien voices screamed over comms, then went silent. The Academy's thin defenses cracked under pressure. Mara's pulse thundered, yet her voice never faltered. Hold them. Make them think we are more than we are. Fear will slow them. And it worked long enough. After what felt like an eternity, gleaming Allied cruisers ripped from hyperspace, cannons blazing. The Tarkon, bloodied and bewildered, broke and retreated, their pride gutted by what should have been a simple conquest. Cadets erupted into exhausted cheers. Mara slumped into her chair, trembling. She had kept them alive. She had done what no one thought possible. Days later, the Academy held convocation. Professors and cadets filled the vast chamber, voices hushed. Professor Yallen stood before them, feathers gleaming. We faced annihilation. Yet under the command of Cadet Mara Kellen, we endured. Let the record show, the human did not merely survive. She taught us how to fight. Mara stepped forward. This time no jeers, no whispers. The sound rose like thunder, an ovation that shook the walls. She scanned the sea of alien faces, once hostile, now filled with something else. Respect. Oh. She raised her voice one final time. You laughed when I arrived. You called humans fragile. But fragility is not weakness. We bend but we do not break. And when darkness comes, we are the ones who carry the fire. The hall erupted. Cadets pounded tables, wings flared, voices roared in unity. For the first time, Mara felt not an outsider, but a symbol. The human spirit revealed before the stars. And deep inside, she knew this was only the beginning. For if war had truly come to the galaxy, then humanity's story, once mocked, once dismissed, was about to reshape it forever.